now, the NPP primaries are entering a critical period with less than a week to go before delegates cast their votes. Tensions are running high, and the party's internal dynamics is looking particularly volatile, with the outcome of polls far from certain. Aspirants are pulling out all stops, each claiming to be the unifying force the party desperately needs. Dr. Yawase Duchum's camp is driving the narrative that he is the calm in the storm, the leader who has steered clear of internal squabbles and divisive rhetoric. The former flag bearer, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's supporters are unequivocal. They say that he's the man to bring the party together. The air is thick with allegations of dirty tricks and divisive tactics. But amidst the mudslinging, Brian Achampong is confident he's the man of the moment and the one the party really needs. The following report has more.
In just 5 days, delegates of the New Patriotic Party will head to the polls to choose who leads the party into the 2028 general elections. After a painful defeat in 2024, the party's first hurdle is internal, selecting a new flag bearer before any serious attempt at returning to power. 5 candidates are in the race. They include former Assin Central MP Kennedy Ejapon, former Vice President and former presidential candidate Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, former Education Minister Dr. Yawase Duchum, former General Secretary of the party Kwabena Ejapon, and former Agric Minister and MP for Abetifi Brian Achampong. All 5 aspirants are crisscrossing the country, making last-minute appeals to delegates. In the Ashanti region over the weekend, Dr. Brian Achampong said he was concerned about growing tension in the race. He called on party members to put unity first. He alleged that Dr. Bawumia declined to exchange pleasantries with Kennedy Ejapon on arrival at the signing of the Peace Pact. According to Brian Achampong, but for his intervention, the situation could have escalated. A development, he says, highlights the need for restraint among all camps.
I am the only one that can unite this party for victory in 2028.
However, Kennedy Ejapon has also accused Brian Achampong of failing to exercise due diligence in the signing of the Peace Pact.
Dr. Achampong, sign, baby, I never said me sign.
They don't read the document. Brian Achampong signed against my name because he failed to carefully read the document. I'm not a PhD holder.
Kennedy's campaign team says measures to prevent foreign interference are in place and is urging authorities to enforce the law. Meanwhile, Dr. Yawase Duchum says he will upgrade public basic schools to international status within 2 years if elected. He made the commitment while engaging delegates in Tamale ahead of the primaries. Security is expected to be tight on voting day. The Inspector General of Police warned that violence will not be tolerated.
Please, we are cautioning that the police are more macho than the macho men you deploy. And that when it comes to the stage, that these macho men will not take advice from the caution that is given them. And they come to the police station and then we arrest them.
The NPP Flagbearer election is scheduled to take place on Friday, with the outcome expected to shape the party's future direction.
So the infighting and allegations are rising, and concerns are also coming up about what this will mean for the party. Well, join us now to have a conversation on this is Kwesi Kwarteng, he's spokesperson for Kennedy Ejapon. I also have with me a rep from Dr. Bawumia's campaign team, Kofi Tonto. We appreciate your time. Let's delve right into it and just look at fallouts from the Peace Pact sign. Now, start with Kwesi Kwarteng. You've been away for a while. Welcome back. Happy New Year. It's in order. What actually happened based on the briefing you've received, and what's the internal wrangling all about? You have some mute for us to hear you clearly. Kwesi Kwarteng, you have some mute for me to hear you clearly.
I don't think he's here. I don't think he's hearing you.
Okay. Who's Kofi Tonto is speaking right now, I presume?
Yes.
Great. Since we have you, let's start with you. Let's look at the fallout of the signing of the Peace Pact. Allegation as to what happened, who was on whose side, and the divisiveness that has, come up in the media space afterwards. What's your stance and thoughts about some of the key concerns that have come up after the signing of the Peace Pact?
Well, first of all, I think we need to identify what the facts are in as far as what transpired at the Peace Pact. It remains a fact that all the aspirants, including their reps, received copies of the Peace Pact before the event itself. From what I've heard, about 2 or 3 days before the event. So on the day of the event, just before Honorable Ken Ejapon signed the document, he raised a question. Let me also put it on record that one, there was no omission, there were no errors, and there were no deletions. Just before he signed the document, he raised a concern that you are asking me to sign a document. What if something happens on election day and because of that, I don't want to sign? What if? I don't want to agree to the results. That was his query. So the whole outing or outdoor of misinformation that one, there was a deletion is untrue, there was an omission is untrue, there was an error is untrue. Then the chairman of the committee explained to him that, look, when it comes to whether or not there will be concerns, there are processes within the electoral system that allows you to address your concerns. So, for example, if on the voting day, you deem something inappropriate, for example, you think somebody was supposed to vote and they couldn't vote, or there was supposed to be an action and that action didn't occur, the Electoral Commission has processes of addressing those concerns on site. So if, just like they do for national elections, so if you have concerns, you have 2 agents for every polling station. Your agents have to raise those concerns, and then we will address those concerns. If those concerns necessitate, that is, if the events that occur are adverse enough to affect the credibility of the elections for that particular polling station, we may annul the results, just as we do for national elections. So that has been taken care of. And when that discussion came up, your rep, Jojo Rocky, was there. So this discussion has been taken care of. Then Honorable proceeded to go ahead and sign the document. So that is what transpired. So it was not true that there was an omission, there was a deletion, or there was an error. In any case, if your argument, one, is that you never received the document, if you never received the document, then which original document are you using as your basis to establish that there was an omission or an error or a deletion? I hope you get the point that I'm making, because there has to be a source document and then another document, and there has to be discrepancy between the source document and the newer document to establish the omission, deletion, or errors. So if you didn't receive any document, on what basis were you able to establish that there was an error, there was an omission, or there was a deletion? So it was absolutely not true, a complete figment of their own imagination. In any case, my position is no different from the position other candidates have espoused. For example, just today, Kwabena J. Japan, in an interview, took the same position that I've taken. that there was no omission, no deletion, or nothing like that whatsoever, and that indeed they all received copies of the documents before the peace pact.
And there appeared to be some internal tension, especially even we saw with the sitting arrangement and how each candidate had formed their own camp within the signing of the peace pact table when we saw on air. The big concern now is that post the elections, can we even guarantee that whoever wins will work with other candidates for the party?
Well, two things, my sister. You can base that question on two things. One, who has done it before? You know, record of what has transpired in the past. The record shows that His Excellency, the former Vice President, has won the election before. And when he won the election, he was able to bring on board other contestants and then work with them. He was able to bring on board other persons who didn't support him and work with them. In fact, some of them were integral in the entire process. So he has done it before. Number two, his position, his disposition, let me put it that way. He has carried himself in a manner that makes it possible to unite people. I mean, his comments, his language, his posturing, his behavior, his humility, his tolerance, all of these things culminate into a person who is well positioned to unite people. Because the only way you can unite people is if you deal with them fairly to begin with. He has not insulted anybody. He's not called anybody names. He's not denigrated anybody. So it makes it easier for him to unite people once he wins the election. For the other candidates, I cannot speak for them. But at least for my candidate, he's positioned himself decently enough to show that once he wins, he'll be able to bring everybody on board.
Let me bring in Dr. Dixon Adumaku Kisi. He's a member of Dr. Brian A. Champon's camp. He joins the conversation now. We appreciate your time here on The Pulse. A lot has transpired post the signing of the peace pact. I'd like to start with allegations that your candidate signed on the name of Kennedy Japon. Is that what actually transpired? Did he not read the document?
Well, thanks for your time. That is not the case, and I think others can corroborate this, that there was nothing like signage against a name that is not Dr. Brian Champon's name. So that isn't the case. I think we've gone through this over and over. And I think it's very clear to me that it would be quite unfortunate to even make the argument that nobody reads, especially when others have been very clear that this was a ceremonial signage, in the sense that the document had been delivered to each candidate prior to the sitting.
So your camp received a copy of the document post the signing?
Nobody could have read the entirety of that within an hour and then agreed to sign it. Over there. This is something that we all know was a ceremonial event. That was not the place for reading. Of course, if it's appropriate, everybody would have then had his team peruse the document during the program. And nobody would allow for candidates to go and sit and read alone and take a decision on behalf of the entire campaign. That is certainly not what is sort of very pragmatic or wise to do. So let me put on record that each candidate has the opportunity to peruse the document prior to the signage. And
but can you give me a duration or a timeline? When exactly do you receive the document? Was it when you arrived at the location, or you had a document before?
This certainly not the printed out, very nicely printed out document, but the content has been known to, all the parties. And may I say that discussions and stakeholder engagement led to the creation of this document. So it will be very unfortunate for anybody to think that we just woke up one day and then there's a peace pact and it has to be signed. This was very ceremonial.
But then I wanted to clarify when exactly you received the soft copy, at least, of this peace pact, and when you received the hard copy.
The content, whether soft or hard, like I was saying, was prior to the signage.
Okay.
And, I mean, that is, let's not, the content is what matters. And as I said, there's been discussions in between candidate and the stakeholders about this prior to that day. And what happened at the Lisa Hotel was a ceremonial event.
Well, this is coming up because of the allegation that the document had discrepancies and errors in it. And so we just wanted to clarify when each camp received a copy of the document, and if indeed you spotted any error in the document.
Let me reiterate this. The document had no editing after or before, let me say, the signage within those 3 hours. There was no editing done, no add-ons, no deductions or reductions. So I hope I can be as clear to you as possible. Either you choose to take the allegations or you choose to take us in what happened, that there were no reductions or additions or editing of that document.
Clearly, during the signing of the peace pact, we could sense a tension in the air. And so the question is, post the election on the 31st, who would be the unifier of the other aspirants should he win the upcoming polls? Your candidate, Dr. Brian Ichambo, has been, touting that he's the man for the job and he's a unifier. How do you plan to do that if indeed he wins?
Well, I mean, looking at his demeanor during the whole program, though some appeared upset to the extent that their own people have attested that some or one or two candidates were not happy. His demeanor was quite, to borrow from fashion, demure, in the sense that he sought to even, smile as much as possible, to engage them with a few jokes, hoping that tempers would come down. But in all of this, one thing is very clear, and I keep saying this, and I believe Tonto would agree, that we cannot win 2028 with one lane. We need a dual courage in the sense that if Ken should win, he can't go it alone. Neither can Baumia go it alone. It's impossible doing the math. So a candidate who's not, with such diehard following, who are not at the neck and, trying to either win or no other way, should be the one. The middle ground should be the one. And I think that the temperament of Dr. Brian Ichambo, shows that when he comes, at least he's more amenable to bringing the two, titans together. And I think that is so clear. It's a no-brainer, really. If you listen to the grassroots, it's a no-brainer. What I worry about, largely, like many of us, is that beyond 31st, this Saturday, who stands tall and who will be more agreeable to bringing the two sides together. And I think everybody knows that it'll be that road will be much easier with Dr. Brian Ichambo. However, should any of the others win, I think one side will be quite difficult to work for the other side.
And why is that?
Well, we all know that the followings have been so, bitter in terms of their bickering, shall I use that word? And they've been at it to an extent that is becoming injurious and not as friendly as politicians should be. So we're hopeful. We are really hopeful that the delegates will consider a vote for togetherness to be that of Dr. Brian Ichambo, so that we can come together and then go at it with the NDC. But if we go on a one lane would not lead us to victory in 2028.
I know that the Tamale branch, the Northern Region branch for Brian Champon's team, raised concerns about a grand scheme to strong-arm executives into voting for Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. I know you submitted a petition. Is there any update on that?
As far as I'm concerned, I think that we'll continue to dialogue and we are encouraging people to vote freely and to vote as their mind dictates and not by virtue of coercion. And we abhor coercion to the core. And we hope that the party, per its arrangement and the leadership, would ensure fairness. And if they should do otherwise, then the pact becomes a troublesome thing because the pact requires that the party also act right. The pact is not just between the aspirants. The pact is between the party and its leadership and the aspirants. So in local terms, both, it takes two to tango. So the party will act right, then the aspirants will agree to the result. And if we don't see that, then there'll be a bit of a withdrawal of, let me say, signatures.
Now, stay with me. Let me bring in Kwesi Kwarteng. He's from Kennedy Japan's camp. We appreciate your time here on The Pulse. A lot of things have happened post the signing of the Peace Pact. You raised concerns about errors in the document. Other candidates have disputed that.
Well, thank you very much. And I think from our camp, we feel that we've discussed this matter enough. And it's not a subject matter that we want to respectfully spend so much time on. Because, I mean, what is the point? That one party, after we sign a peace pact, Kofi Toto will be on the line of obviously attempt to put Ken in a different light. And Kwesi Kwarteng will also come in his attempt to rebut, also put Bawumia in a different light. I think right after the peace pact, after the pact has been signed, we all move forward in one accord, in unison. Hopefully after 31st, whoever come as a winner will come together and support him. I mean, from our camp, we believe that it is not in the best interest of the party to discuss this matter further on television, because at the end of the day, it does no good to the party as a whole, especially when we had just signed a pact. As to who is right, who is wrong, I'm not sure we are so much interested in it. Bottom line is that Ken was given a document. He felt that as a leader, he has to peruse it once again before he proceeds to sign. I mean, people have even argued that he had a document earlier, but I've always insisted that, assuming even without admitting that he even had a document earlier, nothing prevents him or bars him from still reading further and raising a point of clarification. I think this should end it. As to the jabs coming from all sides, whether from our side, whether from Brian's side, whether from Dr. Bawumia's side, I mean, these are very normal and natural occurrences in politics, especially looking at the moments and the times we are in. So those ones, we just have to forgive ourselves, pat our back, and move on. But to situate the conversation on national television, I mean, 3 clear days after the signing of the pact, and now discuss who did wrong, who didn't do right, the mood of Dr. Bawumia, Ken's objection, now Brian portrays as the messiah to bring the party. Indeed, in any event, if any of them, which is Dr. Bawumia, Kennedy Japan, did not want to, I'm sure they reserve the right not even come for the event even in the first place. And to be very honest, we are doing politics. I support Ken, I speak for Ken, but I do not believe in one bit that any of the parties sitting there would want to do anything to break the party. All of them are senior party members. They will want to unite the party. They want to bring the party together. They will want the party to win the 2028 election. So I do not subscribe to this view that if it has not been me, they were going to fight. I mean, come on, that's who Dr. Bawumia is going to fight with, who Kennedy Japan. They came to sign peace, but it wasn't a taekwondo, how do you call it, taekwondo activity. So let's move on. We've signed a peace pact. It settles the whole discussion. But to be on TV and throw one jab and try to blame, I don't think our team is so much interested in it.
But you stoked the flames. Your camp stoked the flames. You raised the concerns about even Brian Champon's signing on the part allocated for Kennedy Japan. So these are your concerns you raised, and we were just seeking clarity. Are you saying as your camp, all the concerns you raised were actually non-existent?
Oh, come on. I am saying that we've reached a level where those matters that were raised, whether valid or invalid, are no longer relevant, especially some few days to election. At the end of the day, in our camp, I'm not sure it's going to add any votes to Kennedy Japan. Neither is also going to add any votes to Brian Champon or Dr. Baromia. Most important thing is that the pact has been signed, and we are. If we are not very careful, we'll just be diverting the discussion from the essence and relevance of the pact to some of these peripheral matters, which I believe, in all honesty, they are not so much of relevance, that we should focus on the symbolic nature of the pact, that at the end of the day, it unites all of us, it brings all of us together, and most importantly, it demonstrates that whichever way, whatever that it may be, at the end of the day, as a party, we'll still be able to come together and win power in 2020. As to, I mean, the aspersions that has been casted, I mean, we've heard from all rounds. I'm saying that the whole idea of the pact is to end that conversation, especially when it has been signed in this conclusion and there was no objection to it and all the parties signed. We should move on.
Another key concern that has come up is who exactly would be the unifier for other candidates should he win the upcoming polls. Concerns have been raised about your candidates. Is he willing to work with other candidates should he win in the upcoming polls? How does he even plan to unify the fold?
Let me be very honest with you. I do not in one bit or even in a second think that any of the candidates will not tend to unite the party after the 31st January primaries. All of them have good thought about the party, and they look at the supreme interest of the party. So I give all of them thumbs up. Even the whole idea about signing the pact itself demonstrates all of them their commitment to pushing for unity and uniting the party at the end of the day. But of course, I mean, for the purpose of our politics, I obviously will speak for my candidate. And I would say that Kennedy Japan has that track record of uniting the party and has led a lot of reconciliation initiatives, which I genuinely believe all of them may even pursue. Same, if you recall, the former incident between the chairman and the Honorable Esiama, it was Ken who led that negotiation and reconciliation efforts. If you also recall, in 2023, after Ken had lost, he reached out to his junior brother, Dr. Baumia, and they all campaigned across the length and breadth of the country. So I'm sure that it doesn't matter who comes out as a winner. I have so much confidence in all the 5 aspirants that whether Kennedy Japan, whether Dr. Brian Champon, Dr. Baumia, anyone who emerges as a winner will all come together and support that person. I'm not sure I have to raise somebody as superior in terms of having some wild and mystic credence to unite the party. I mean, I can say that all of them have the supreme interest of the party at heart. And of course, in terms of the candidature of Kennedy Japan, he has demonstrated that and has some level of track record to that. So yes, whichever way, whether, I mean, the outcomes are two, either you win or you lose, but we are confident of winning. And at the end of the day, all of us will come together as one party.
Finally, before I let you go, how preparations so far? We know that we just have a few more days to the election date. Internally, how preparations going?
Yeah, most of the rounds are done. That is moving to the delegates to appeal to them. Most of them, a lot of us are concluding, except some few ones. Even as now, I'm speaking to you from Ayawaso North, where I'm here with Honorable Natoshi. Ken currently is also in Asante region, also doing some engagement relative to the election. Of course, the wife is also doing some in other regions. So far, if you ask me, I'll say our team is highly prepared. We are more than prepared. We are trusting in the personality and confidence of God that 31st He grants us victory, because the Bible has been clear that chariots and horses are prepared for the day of battle, but when it comes to victory, it alone comes from the Lord. So we are confident that at the end of the day, God will show us mercy and touch the hearts of the delegates. Just like the Bible says that the heart of the king has always been in the hands of the Lord. And like the river that runneth, He turneth wherever He likes. So we will continue to appeal to them. And we are very hopeful that at the end of the day, 31st Ken will emerge victorious. So we wish ourselves congratulations in advance. Koviton to join me to wish Ken congratulations.
Let me bring in Kofi Kontonto as we wrap up the conversation. Kofi, how operations going so far as we wrap up?
My sister, what Kwesi just did, yeah, is in communication. When your back is against the wall, you find a crafty way to turn around. Because I'm happy you asked Kwesi those questions.
You don't believe in unity again.
No. You were the one that led the charge. You were the one that led the accusations. You were the one that did interviews and wrote on your Facebook post and all manner of things. You were the one that did that. And Kwesi, it was your boss after the pact who then went to another event and said that other PhD people didn't read, etc. But let the fact remains that you have come to the realization that the misinformation you peddled were untrue. And so it is only honest that you say, okay, look, we took a position then. We've come to realize that the position we took were not entirely the case, and therefore we like to move on. But Kwesi wants to do a fantastic communication strategy by omitting their own omission that they used, omitting their behavior, and then jumping to the conclusion that, oh, let's all come together, let's all unify, let's all focus. Yeah, of course we are going to focus, because we've always focused. But when certain utterances are made, when certain accusations are made, they destroy the very image of the party that we are all trying to protect. Because a perception was created that the party didn't give your leader the right information, that the party, in fact, there was one gentleman that works for Kwesi who wrote that a section of the document was deleted, deliberately deleted, and it was Kennedy who was smart who found it, impugning criminality on the leadership of the committee. Because we can't just wish all these things away.
So you want them to officially apologize?
They have to admit that they got some things wrong, that indeed their camp worked the documents, that indeed there were no omission, that indeed there were no deletion, that indeed there were no errors. Honorable Kennedy,
Can I respond?
Kwesi, I'll give you time to respond. Let him wrap up.
When I'm done, you can respond. But there were no omissions, there were no deletions, there were no errors. Kennedy raised a concern. Those concerns, he was told, have been addressed already. He proceeded to sign. Finito. It ends there. On the bit about unity and everything, as I've already told you, my candidate stands tall as far as how he has conducted himself, how he has done it before. So it really shouldn't be an issue going forward, in as far as. So once, God willing, victory is ours. Kwesi and Co, I saw his brother at the back. They can join, I'll bring them to Dr. Mahmoud Baumia, and then we can all work together. They can still support the communications team. I mean, they are young, vociferous people who, are doing well in their own right. They can join and we can all do the work and prosecute the 2028 agenda.
Thank you so much, Kofi. I'll come back to Kwesi. Let me wrap up with Dr. Dixon. Your final words as we wrap up the conversation. How is campaign going, knowing that we just have a few more days to wrap up?
Well, I think Dr. Brian Champo has done well. He stepped foot on every soil constituency in this country. And his message has been very simple, that, he stands for the youth and stands to reactivate the base to make up for the 2 million deficit that we were bestowed upon in 2024. And he's very hopeful that he comes with new ideas and ones that would work for the country's job industry, and then in terms of helping with industrial development of this country. So we're very hopeful. If the delegates give him the nod, he's very well resourced and very ready to put us through everything needed to win 2028.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Dixon, for your time here on the Pulse. Let me wrap up with Kwesi Kwase. Kwesi, will you apologize to Ghanaians?
Oh, come on, Kofi should give us a break. Apology for way. I have restrained myself in going into the matter further as a matter of principle. And the principle was that we
So your
cannot,
concerns still stand?
you see, I mean, first of all, the principle first, that we cannot be on TV to destroy the party, especially after signing a peace pact. Then what is the sense of going in the first place to go and sign a peace pact? Well, of course, all the concerns that we raised, and it is important for me to reiterate, at no point did any member of our team stated that there were errors in the document. Our point was that there were omissions.
But I have your screenshot too.
Can I?
No, please, Kofi, you have to allow Kofi to finish.
No problem. No problem.
You spoil my flow. Let me proceed. At no point did we say anywhere that there were errors in the documents. We raised a point relative to omissions based on earlier discussions that had been agreed upon between the parties and the electoral commissioner, which our candidate felt will reflect or manifest in the document. And when he didn't see it, he then raised a point for clarification, assuming even without admitting that he even had a document even prior to going there. He was even reading it in his car prior to going there. What prevents him from raising a point for clarification? I mean, leaders must exercise due diligence. The fact that you are signing a document, I mean, for the cameras or ceremonial, does not necessarily mean that you cannot also exercise due diligence. Of course, we are not trying to throw any shade, but Ken, in his right senses and in his right place, felt that he ought to have exercised due diligence. And of course, when there is any point of clarification, he raised those points. And that was exactly what he did. If you feel offended that your colleague has exercised due diligence and you didn't, I mean, that is left to you. But like I indicated, we've passed those stages. We can't be on TV and throwing tantrums on who did that, who didn't do that. The whole essence of the pact should seal everything, end everything. By 31st, we'll all come together and support Ken's candidature for 2028. Thank you. Kofi Baba and Kashi Bill.
Kofi Kwarteng is a member of Kennedy Japan's team. I've also been speaking to Kofi Tonto. He's from he's from Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's team, as well as Dr. Dixon, who's from Brian Champon's camp. I appreciate your time, gentlemen.